Welcome back to our show. My next guest is the producer of an upcoming project called Wildwood Inn. We're going to discuss that, and also a previous film called Best and Brightest, and a whole lot more. It's a pleasure to welcome to this program Benjamin Oberman. Thank you for being on with us.
Thanks for having me.
Tell me a little bit about you. How does one set out to become a film producer? This seems like quite the exotic career choice.
Looking backwards, it makes sense. Looking forward, 10 years ago, I would have never guessed. Right. I was a competitive figure skater in pairs, and I took a job at the end of my amateur career with ABC Sports and spent a couple of years doing that, only to decide I still wanted to perform. So I went back into that and ended up in New York City at Radio City Music Hall, where I met a guy that had a live production company, and I thought that sounded fun, so I started to work for him producing theatrical shows. And when I maxed out my potential there, I started my own company doing made-for-TV sports events, which is a very long, slow process, and eventually I got interested in making movies and came to Hollywood with some ideas.
There are so many people that talk about the filmmaking process and say the most gratifying part is when it's all done, because there's a lot of hurry up and wait. Is that even amplified to be the guy behind the scenes as opposed to the performer?
Yeah. I mean, as a performer, I always thought what we did was hard work, but I never realized how many years of work went into the project before I arrived.
Sure.
And so now I would say there's a couple exciting points. Finding the story and trying to develop and get it off the ground. But then it's a very long, slow process, and there's a lot of waiting going on until the project gets greenlit, and then it is very much the hurry up and everything goes very quickly. And then it slows down once you get into the editing room where you're putting it together. And then the same thing, it's a lot of waiting through the sales process until you find it, and then it's a big push into the release, and it becomes very exciting again.
How do you know that a project is worth putting this much life into?
Passion.
Yeah.
When I read this script, I was immediately drawn in, and as I was finishing reading it for the first time, I was sitting at a car wash here in Studio City, and as I read the closing scenes, tears just started rolling down my eyes, and everybody started looking at me with a strange look on their face, and it was a little embarrassing, but I fell in love with the script and the characters and the story, and I guess a little bit like learning a new jump in ice skating, I will fall down 10,000 times until I get it right.
Sure. Well, let's talk a little bit about this movie. Again, the project is called Wildwood Inn. Fair to call it a romantic comedy?
Romantic, yes. There's some comedic elements, but I would say it's more along the vein of like a Lake House or
sure.
The Notebook. It's a little bit more serious. There's some very light moments, some very funny moments, but it's about two people that fall in love through a connection in a guest journal in a mountain cabin, and it's the years that go by where they fight this love against the commitments that they've both made in their lives to other people. And
tell me about Christopher McDonald's involvement. He'll be directing.
Yes, this will be Christopher's feature directorial debut. He's been an amazing actor. He's done almost 100 feature films, 60
right.
television series. And what was amazing about him was when his name was first brought up, I kind of thought about him as like Shooter McGavin and kind of the slimy, evil guy. And I'm sitting there saying, I don't really see how this guy has the vision to bring this beautiful romantic story to life, but I'm open. And so we met, and after our first meeting, he invited me to come up to his house in Lake Arrowhead, where he took me out on the boat, and he showed me every single location he'd already picked out for the film, and he explained the motivation, and he understood it, and he was nothing like these characters he play, and he sold me immediately on his vision and why he's the director for this film, and why, with all of his years and years of experience, he can bring out the performances that are needed to make this film work.
But still, that must be a stressful decision to give an actor the chance to get on the other side of the camera when you've got so much, you're the money guy as producer, you have so much riding on it. Is that a stressful decision to make?
It's stressful if you don't believe that they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
I'm 100% confident in Chris's ability, plus we're going to surround him with an amazing team of cinematographers and assistant directors. But there's other people, like it's been frustrating as I've talked to finance companies that have said that they don't finance first-time directors, no matter what. And it's been a bone of contention of mine because Christopher McDonald cannot be placed in the same category as a young director who just came out of film school. He's got almost 40 years experience on the set and knowing how to work with it. And so that's been frustrating. But for me, he sold me completely on why he's the guy to do it.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned cinematography. I'd just be curious, as a movie fan and a producer, maybe second, what your thought is. I get the chance to interview Dick Donner once, and he said that the cinematographer is more important than the director, because if the glow of the picture is not right, it doesn't matter, what is actually on film. What do you make of that kind of a comment?
I think it depends on the type of film. On a film that's more technically based, where it is about the composition of the shot and the action, I would say that perhaps that's very true. I've heard stories of directors that the film would have been better if they didn't show up to work.
Right.
But in this particular case, I think the cinematographer is going to be of the utmost importance in terms of composing the shot and making sure that it's lit correctly and exposed correctly. But at the end of the day, it's like this is a film that is 100% dependent upon the actor's ability to bring these characters and these emotions to life and make the transformations over the journey of the film that's necessary. And to accomplish that cannot be done with the camera. It's going to take a director to tell the story and to understand the actor's process so that they can communicate with them in their own language and get what's needed, so that the audience gets pulled in and goes on this emotional ride and feels the payoff.
And the lovely and talented Malin Akerman, who people probably know best from Watchmen, is starring in this picture. Exciting to sign her to the picture, I'm sure. Oh,
it was unbelievable. I mean, there's been a few times where I've been wondering, just like, is she still on board? And then I'll talk with her manager, or I'll see her at an event, and she'll ask what's going on with it, and it just makes me feel amazing to know that she still believes in this. And I think she's an amazing actress who's on the verge of really breaking out into being a major star. And I only hope that we can get this made before she becomes too big for us.
Do we set a release date yet, or these things are still tentative? Is the best thing for people just to kind of Google and keep up with it that way at this point?
Yeah, absolutely. There's for the last 2 years we've been very close to getting it made. Each year we get even closer. I think right now we're on the verge of getting everything locked in, but until we actually have all of our financing in place and our start date set, I can't predict a release date. In a perfect world, I would love to say that sometime in 2012 is when we'd be looking at, but sure. Everything is, we could be a month away or a couple of years away. It's hard to say.
Meanwhile, we were involved early in the process. Josh Sheloff is a director of a film called Best and Brightest, a friend of our show, and he was on, and Jenna Stern was on, one of the actors from that film, and you were involved too. This is kind of a small little movie that's really taken off, and that's certainly in part by Neil Patrick Harris getting out there and supporting it too. He's one of the stars of the film. Tell me a little bit about that movie for people that aren't familiar.
Well, again, I mean, my involvement is not direct with that film. I've been just cheering it on. I think what they've accomplished is amazing. My connection of it is of course through Christopher McDonald, but it's just one of those independent little films that someone believed in. They got it financed. They got it made. Again, they took a risk with Neil Patrick Harris, who's a tremendous actor, but not known for necessarily headlining films. And he hit it out of the park. He did an amazing job, and I think what's more amazing is that when they didn't initially get a theatrical release, some very creative people, Jill Severese and others at the company, at Big Indie Pictures, came up with ideas of how they could get their own theatrical releases, and they started getting screenings and populating to the point that there's now interest in actually picking that up and expanding it. So in the independent film world where things are, there's no one way to get anything done. They've actually cut through the clutter, and I really hope that this film's going to become very well known and seen by a lot of people.
Well, I'm confident the same will be possible with you and Chris at the helm for Wildwood Inn, and really great to get to talk to you. Hope you'll come back once it finally makes it to the screen. Thanks for coming on.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Coming right back here with music from Vertical Horizon.